All right, folks. It's been a little while. Welcome, everybody. How you doing? What's up, folks? Welcome in. Good to see you. Is everything working? Oh my god, I haven't reset everything. Everything is working, though. There's no technical difficulties going on. Good to see you, folks. Frenchie, I see you in here. Real quick with the toes. How you doing, dude? Frenchie has been queuing up events like nobody's business in the org. If you're in the org and you haven't gotten into an event, what are you doing? Space Cadet, how you doing? Welcome. Reese, good to see you, dude. The Toes Gang. Love to see Toes Gang in chat. Water park. I also like a water park. I haven't been to one in forever, though. Always worried about getting like foot fungus and stuff, you know? Knights of the Dice Table. I do really like that name, by the way. Do you do dice stuff? Or like, what is it? D&D? Pathfinder? What kind of dice are you throwing? Jeremy 07's buddy, Big Buddha. How you doing, Joe? Francesco, Niku, dude. 07's, man. Good to see ya. Hope things are going well. Hope work's going well. Little Ted, 07's. Thomas, good morning. Passy. Division Error, Kenneth. Stanko, Unloading Whale. We always need a whale. Somebody always needs a whale. How's everybody doing today? How's your week's been? I have been gone and out of it most of the week. We took a little bit of a break ourselves. We got out of town because it's that time of year. It's holiday season, and we kind of try to get ourselves a little bit of space. You know, things get crazy. In fact, you should have seen our drives to and from our vacation place. Oh man, that was a journey. But overall, we had a really good time. Feeling refreshed, feeling good. I am ready to get back to the content. I got like 3 videos that I'm working on for you guys. 2 Star Citizen, 1 Starfield. We just put out another video yesterday about CitizenCon. If you haven't seen that, or if you're interested in learning more about like the history of CitizenCon, you might be surprised how absolutely insane it has been. Granted, people, I guess this is what happens, right? People saw that video and thought I was being salty. I guess there's a little bit of salt in there, but ultimately the point of the video is to point out how much that event has changed through the trends of the event, through the way that they have created scandals in the event, and as they've improved it. I wanted to try and highlight that. I actually put that video out before last year's CitizenCon, so 2022 I think was their best CitizenCon so far, but obviously that's not in the video. What they did in 2022 I think was a really good job with setting short-term expectations and talking more about the reality of the gameplay they have to get into the game in the near future. Things like new missions, economic changes. I guess I probably would have liked to hear more about the economy, but things that I think make more sense than a planet in a star system that's across the game space, you know, that we still don't hear about. So if you haven't seen that video, I'd check it out. It's over on YouTube, and you know, I think people have been liking it, but I think that the history of CitizenCon is pretty crazy. CitizenCon itself is kind of crazy. And I will be going this year. I don't know if any of you guys got tickets, but they have been out on sale, and I'm looking forward to meeting some folks. Happy Friday to all the little tomatoes out there. Yo, we're a whole garden. Some of y'all are cucumbers, okay? We got some eggplants in there. I see you. Couple squashes, peaches, melons in the chat. Where are my melons at? Sad that Port Olisar is going. I haven't really heard much about that yet. I did not watch Inside Star Citizen because normally when I do, I try to record a reaction video whenever I watch it in real time. Like, so my first watch through, I try to record what I think of it and everything. But we are actually reconsidering our content a little bit going forward, so I wanted to wait until I could get a better idea of what I want to do with these videos. I'm thinking possibly instead of reaction videos, we start to focus more on very informal, not polished videos that just kind of go over the news. Something akin to maybe what you would see from a normal casual news channel. So might not do the reaction, might just instead throw the video up on the channel with me talking over it. But we'll see. We'll see. I don't think too many people care about Port Olisar anyways, but I might be wrong. Oleum is your first live stream here. Welcome, cheers. You actually came in at a good time. We just hit our 3, Mrs. Tomato, or is it 3 years we've been streaming now? I think this is 21, 22. Yeah, this would be 3 years now. We just hit our 3-year stream birthday earlier this week. Didn't get to do like a huge event for it because it was in the middle of a busy week for us, but we do want to do a streamathon at some point in the very near future to celebrate that. Big thanks to everybody who was here in the beginning. I see Drazen in chat, still modding. Drazen has been here almost 3 years since we just started. So thank you so much, man. Always appreciate you. Congrats on all the good things happening to you right now. You deserve it, man. Don't think I was really salty in the video, honestly. Who knows, man? I've had comments on YouTube in the same comment chain. Somebody said I was too positive, and somebody said I was too negative. And what do you what do you go by in that position? Denix07's welcome. How you doing? You think Pyro will come when the new Drake ship comes? The new Drake ship, what is that? What is the new Drake ship? Give me the tea here. Gonzalo, hello. 07 buddy, how you doing? REA, welcome. Banana, I like it. Congrats on the Streamiversary, thank you. Really appreciate it. I appreciate everybody who has been here at any point in the past 3 years. I never even paid attention to live streaming until 3 years ago. And I know Justin TV and Twitch were huge for a long time before that. It's just like not something I ever thought I would be doing. Not something I ever considered. Not even something that I looked forward to, but I actually have a lot of fun chilling here and talking with you guys. And I realize that people like it when we talk. So that's why we're going to be doing a lot more talking on this channel. And I've got more to say about that later, but we've got some plans, folks. We've got content plans. We're cooking up something good, something nice. You're so glad Starfield is coming. Why is that? You feeling a lack of start of space games right now? Too neutral. If only there was a thing. You've seen very many people really upset about Port Olisar. A lot of memories, and for many, the best station. You have no stakes in this, though. I honestly, again, don't know what they're doing to change it. How long is the video? And I guess we could just watch it right now. Could just watch it right now with you guys. Why not? We've got a pretty big program here. You can see all the tabs on the ceiling here, on the ceiling, the top of the screen. We're gonna go through 4 years. We're going to go through 4 years of Star Citizen 4.0 talk and development. So I've got videos on videos on videos here with different references. We've got some monthly reports, or I'm sorry, we got some letters from the chairman. We've got a couple of random posts, but ultimately just a lot of them talking about Pyro and 4.0, what they want to do with it, how it progressed throughout the years, because going through this stuff and trying to figure this out, I realized they did not have the same idea in 2018 that they do now. Things changed a lot throughout that time. So I thought we could chill and talk about it a bit. Unloading Whale, dude, just unloaded 5 memberships on YouTube chat. I appreciate you, buddy. Only you having audio problems. Is something wrong with the audio? Please inform me. I will try to fix it if I can. Very balanced video on CitizenCon. Well done. New PO looks good. Just saying. Thank you, Little Ted. And thanks for watching the video. I'm not going to lie. The reception on that video has been a bit deflating. That was a very, very large amount of work to put that video together. I would say 15, 20 plus hours. And it unfortunately has been doing pretty bad compared to the rest of the channel, and as part of the content that we're looking into, I think the Star Citizen community and what people are looking for on YouTube has changed over the last couple of years, and it might be time for the Space Tomato channel to catch up with that and to start to change things around. I think videos like this that take a lot of time and effort might not be the best way of communicating these types of things anymore. So I appreciate you for watching it nonetheless. Most watchable because you have the radio host podcast voice. Well, that's why we like to do a lot of talking around here. Thank you, Planlander. You have a feeling it might take another full year to get PES in a state where it's stable enough to get server meshing implemented. You love to be wrong, though. I would, too. I'm just not going to put any more dates on this kind of stuff. I'm not going to make any more predictions of this kind of stuff. I'm just going to cover this, give you guys the info as best I can, and I no longer want to be... I don't want to be quoted for this project's development anymore, to be honest. I love it. I enjoy watching it. And it's great, but I'm not in control of what's happening, and continuing to try and put dates out there or make predictions or, inform people of when things might be happening just makes it harder and harder to do that content. Not on your end. Audio is fine on Twitch. All good here? Cool. Good to hear. Hey, Chase, Mikro, how you guys doing? Listen to all the long form videos while driving. Perfect. Oh, man. We're going to have a lot more of those soon. Yeah. Yeah. What if Mormons existed in Star Citizen? I'm sure they do. Star Citizen has, like, religious groups and stuff in them. So, I'm sure we'll get some kind of interesting encounters with stuff like that. How have I been? Good. We've been good. Like I said, we were just chilling, hanging out over the week. We got to have a little bit of a sit back and relax day or two this week, and it was much needed. It was very nice. For those of you who are either following Mrs. Tomato on Instagram, that's where all the stuff goes up. I'm terrible with Instagram, so like if you want to keep up with what we're actually doing, that's a good way of doing it. But also, we posted in the Discord. We share all the stuff that we're doing in the Discord with the community. Everybody posts the pictures of what's going on in there every day. It's nice. It's a nice little bit of connection, You listen to the live podcast at work all the time and just have it playing while working. That stuff is really good. Well, you have access to all the live podcasts, so cheers to that, Frenchie. As Mrs. Tomato has mentioned, we will be having a new giveaway starting here shortly. We just finished the 400i giveaway, so we're in a little bit of a break period in between the two, but we'll be starting another one I think on Monday. And congratulations to the winner of this giveaway, the 400i. If you are here on stream, we would love to give you your ship right here, live. I could do it right here and like make it look all cool, but Natsuko, whoever you may be, wherever you may be, thank you so much for jumping into our giveaway. Congratulations on winning your 400i. We'll be making a post on Discord, Twitter, and the YouTube channel, but we've already reached out to this person via email. They won by joining us on Discord. Like I said, Discord community is fantastic, so if you haven't joined, consider it. Apparently, it can win you a 400i. Thank you so much, though, Natsuko, for getting involved. Thank you, everybody, honestly, for getting into the giveaway. They're a lot of fun to do. We coordinate them back and forth, throw the codes into the video and all that stuff. Supporters get all the codes at the end, but hope you enjoy your ship. Why is my region set to Turkey? Are I currently in Turkey? Yes, we live in Turkey. Javelin giveaway? Can you even give away javelins? You can take it if they don't want it. I will, I'll hit you up. I'll let you know. All right, let's check this out. Let's take a look at this video. I wasn't planning on doing this right now. Like I said, I kind of thought about doing a sort of an actual video on this. But why don't we take a look? So, hold on a second. Whew, okay, that didn't crash us. So, my friends, we've got a change coming to Star Citizen. Apparently, Port Olisar is going. We've been kind of theorizing it and talking about it for like 2 years now, and I think they actually mentioned at one point the name of the new system, and we were all like, "Is that a new system? Was that or new station?" I heard this is making people sad. And as a longtime Star Citizen fan, I'm guessing I'm going to feel a little nostalgic about this. But let's jump in and see what they're actually going to do with this new station and if it's a good idea.
Port Olisar was first introduced alongside the Persistent Universe in Star Citizen Alpha 2.0, and it holds a special place in the hearts of many who remember those earliest days of Tessa Bannister, comms array missions, and of course the old Big Benny's Challenge. But as Star Citizen's development continues to expand and evolve life in the PU, Port Olisar has fallen behind in its ability to support the game systems of today, later this year, and certainly beyond.
No, we love it. It supports our game systems quite well, except for respawning. You can't respawn there. That's kind of annoying.
But now there's a new kid on the playground looking to take its role and its job, if not its place in our hearts. And it's scheduled to arrive in the upcoming Alpha 320.
What's past is prologue. Anybody who is a long-time fan of the channel, I'm talking long time, like more than 3 years ago, when I first started Star Citizen, I started by making videos that talked about locations. I did not know what I was going to do. I still don't really know what the channel is supposed to do, to be honest, but one of my very first videos on YouTube is a highlight video of Port Olisar. And I feel kind of nostalgic about it just looking at this. I loved making those videos. I hope someday that'll make sense to make more of those. Somebody just sub. Thank you, Orange Joe. You the best. Thanks for the support. All right, back to it.
Port Olisar was our first space station that we put into Star Citizen. It's gone through some minor changes, but for the most part, it's really stayed the same. Just a quick, easy, get in, get out space station.
Quick and easy.
When it was first conceived, basically, it was really just a way for the players to spawn into the solar system. So we had to think about how many habitation halves went in there. We had to think about the stores that were needed, and then a way for players to spawn in their ships. I think that people like it just because it's get in, get out.
Yeah.
You know, and there's that kind of feel. There's no transit loops. There's nothing there that basically extends the timeline and the gameplay. And for the most part, it has all the shops the average person needs, you know, armor shop.
Tango, Turkcey oynuyorum. It actually, something I was telling my friend today, we were out at breakfast today, and we made the connection that, like, I'm learning Turkish, but because I come and I go on these streams and I do these YouTube videos and I'm writing in English and constantly working in English, it makes it harder to, like, catch on to it, you know? But yeah, I'm learning. I'm getting there. I think I should be further along for sure, but definitely interested in getting a full grasp of the language. Sorry.
FPS shop. There's a ship item shop there as well. I think the initial implementation of Port Olisar, you know, did everything that we needed it to do, checked all the boxes. But obviously, as the game has evolved and changed over time, like, we needed to adjust it. We've added medical gameplay, we've added cargo, and unfortunately, Port Olisar doesn't support any of those game loops, so it became apparent that we need to start investigating a way to change it or adjust it and bring it up to speed.
It really has been sad for anybody who doesn't play the game regularly. It's been sad that, like, if you wanted to be in the Crusader area, there was no easy way to just kind of have a good place to spawn. You'd either have to be a Grimhex, which is outside of comm array area, easy for people to be able to attack you while you're leaving, or you'd have to be all the way down at Port Olisar, or not at Port Olisar, Orison, which is, like, not the best place for a mid-level computer to try and render all of those clouds and all that scene in. So it'll be cool to have a nice station here that has all the facilities we need and can support gameplay. I'll say that much. I know the rest of this is probably going to get me going in the other direction. Jaranova, thank you so much for the super chat. You the best. That's awesome. It's a cool dog too. Thank you for the support.
Seraphim Station is the official name for what we've been calling Olisar 2.0 internally for quite a while now. What we initially set out to do is to create this really grand space station with a really fantastic sense of scale that players could have a really good time.
It's actually kind of interesting. I just posted these pictures on Twitter of some of the space station concepts. Here, I'll throw a couple of them up. These are outlaw concepts, so you might recognize this first one actually as, well, maybe if Windows was able to actually render pictures that were stored on my hard. What is wrong with Windows? You might recognize this as looking like Ruined Station, but there are other concepts for outlaw stations. So here, thank you. Here is another one. I think this one's pretty cool. This one almost looks like the Bangle to me in some ways. But this one actually looks kind of similar to Seraphim. You got the ring. You got like the main area here. And then you got sort of what looks like could be cargo sections. I wish they had just done something like this with Port Olisar, you know? These are, I love these concepts. I think they look a little chunkier. A little more Dune or Homeworld than the stations we have right now. They've got massive amount of scale, huge structures. They thick, you know? They've got that. I don't know why I censored that. I just said thick, but I like these concepts, and I feel like that one that I showed you, this one, does look kind of similar to what they're doing with Seraphim.
Flying in and around and also to and from. So we had a really good time playing around with different design languages and shape languages that we could then use to come together for the final product. We were also working on lots of shape studies involving the silhouette of the station.
That's
to
a
make
nice
sure
angle.
It was reminiscent of other stations and also to bring our own unique spin on it.
Seraphim Station is a homage to Port Olisar in the way that it looks. We're keeping the rings, and but then it's also taking all of the existing Leo Station gameplay and bringing that over to that station.
It's much larger and much more extravagant than anything that we've done before in terms of our space station kit. But this is utilizing the kit in the way that we haven't before, and it's created much more unique identity for it than anything else, I think. I think the gameplay around it is going to be very cool, specifically just, you know, seeing it for the first time, approaching it. There's multiple hangars, view rooms all over the station, providing you with, you know, beautiful views of the planet at the right time of day.
Ew.
Extremely large station, probably
Gross. We're going to get normal ASOP terminals in here. Oh, God.
4 to 5 times bigger than Olisar. So
That, like, circular ASOP time. I feel like they could have definitely made the station still feel like Port Olisar and named it Port Olisar. I think somebody said that they might be reserving the name for something else that they want to do, but I hope they do go over why they changed the name here.
we have everything that you could possibly need inside. It has various sets of hangars and habs in the center of the first 2 rings, and those are going to be where players are going to be landing their ships, collecting their ships, and the general gameplay that occurs over there. Then towards the back end of the ship, we have the cargo area, which is going to incorporate that gameplay as well. So this is how we sort of mixed and matched all of these together to create something a little bit more unique. We also have docking tubes and everything else that players could need to traverse along this big structure.
It has the medical clinic areas. It has cargo, everything there that's needed to support all of our
I can get healed.
that are being developed and growing.
The whole need for the station was that we're trying to have a focus on and introduce bounty gameplay into each station as much as we can. So each station also has a security dock integrated into it.
Did you say bounty?
Station as much as we can to have a focus on and introduce bounty gameplay into each station as much as we can.
Like bounty hunting?
To have a focus on and introduce bounty gameplay into each station as much as we can.
Huh,
So each
okay.
station also has a security dock integrated into it as well. That is going to be where all of the bounty gameplay is going to be happening, and you're going to be directed towards that.
Oh. Okay, I didn't really expect that. I mean, I guess it makes sense. I thought all of the bounty offices and law offices were going to be on planets. Didn't know they were going to be doing it on the stations.
And so it will be the replacement, so to speak, for Olisar. Olisar is not going anywhere. We know what a historical thing it is for the players.
We will pay proper homage to it later. And we were trying to find ways to basically send it off. Obviously, I think if we did a new space station and just renamed it Port Olisar, the old Port Olisar that they loved then just goes away completely. But basically, for right now, we need to remove it, and then we'll be putting in Seraphim Station in its place, and then in the future, we'll talk about what we're going to do with Port Olisar.
Never. Always be wary when they say in the future. Because I'm pretty sure it was like 2 or 3 years ago they mentioned in the future that Port Olisar would be replaced. So I hope it's not like another 2 years before we know about Port Olisar. How could they fit it in, though? I wonder if they have anything in mind already, or if they just took it out and they're like, we'll come up with something.
So the way that we set up our LEO stations, all of them are future-proofed and allow us to add new modules to them via our internal transit loop, and the way that we set up the object containers within the game and load. And this is also becoming future-proof for when we add new things to the station. Port Olisar, it was so small, there was no place to add or grow, and there was no transit loops so that we can fill and block off or open new loops to.
Now, Todd just didn't know the fun of EVAing between the different pads, you know? That was our transit. Good stuff. True citizen power and energy.
To get to new areas, and with Seraphim, this allows us to continue that same thought process and to get everything that we need to give to the player in that area, either things that Ryzen is missing or things that Grim Hex might be missing. This allows us to basically make sure that the player has a local area and a local space station to acquire anything that they might need. So as new careers come online, whether that be bounty hunter or exploration or other things, this opens new ways for us to actually go in and add new decks, new content. So Seraphim actually fixes all of that. The whole sea is coming.
I'm gonna get really salty about them teasing the whole sea constantly this year if they're not actually updating the economy with it. To tell you what, ooh, I'm gonna be a nice salty tomato.
And
come
with
on,
the cargo decks and the gameplay that we needed to load the whole sea, we felt that this was the right time to introduce it to the game.
Agreed. So please make it work.
I don't think you can say it's better station than Port Olisar. I think like Port Olisar has become a monument to the players, and it's got its own value. That I think we try to honor that as much as possible, and I think we try to create our own take on that as much as possible. So I like to think that we ended up saying that we're all very happy with. I wouldn't say it is better than Olisar, no.
For marketing purposes, it's better.
For marketing purposes, it's absolutely
100%
3 times better than
upgrade.
Olisar,
Complete
statistically.
upgrade. Yeah, totally.
So what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that Port Olisar's days are numbered when that new hotness Seraphim Station comes online in the upcoming Alpha 320. That it'll be home to all the present-day amenities and capabilities current space stations have to offer. And of course, be better set up for future developments, cargo, bounty hunting, and all the other commercial and industrial gameplay systems that'll continue to evolve in subsequent patches later this year. We also want to give a big shout out to some massive bar citizens that have happened over the last 2 weeks, including those near each studio in Los Angeles, Austin, Montreal, Manchester.
Hold up, I saw an NPC in there.
Austin.
Who is this? Are you in chat? Fix yourself, huh? And while you're at it, fix the game.
Montreal, Manchester, Frankfurt, as well as some absolutely enormous ones in Shanghai with roughly 1,500 people.
Jeez.
Followed by Hong Kong, and if I'm not mistaken, Incheon, South Korea coming up this Saturday, Paris the Saturday after that, and then of course, my absolute favorite each and every year, Cologne, Germany for Gamescom. It's a terrific way to celebrate a birthday, I can promise you that. And while we're talking celebrations, CitizenCon, the big live in-person event, is returning after a 4-year hiatus this year with a 2-day event in my hometown of Los Angeles. It's your chance to meet your favorite developers and fellow citizens in person and pitch which ship you think should be made next directly to John Cruz's face, or even how you think a particular gameplay system should work directly into Todd Pappy's eyes. They're not allowed to leave.
I'm gonna try and lock at least one person down for an on-camera interview at CitizenCon. Really would like to just be able to pick their brains with a couple of questions. We'll see if it happens. They'll probably rebuff me, but I don't know. Maybe I'll have to take a couple of steps from their bounty hunting gameplay and just restrain someone. You know, we'll just call it restraining. It's not kidnapping. Just want some questions answered, okay?
They legally have to stand there and listen. General tickets are on sale today, and you can check the website for details on the when and the what for. And as for me, it's that time of year where ISC goes on hiatus. We're going to take a few weeks to recharge some batteries,
oh boy,
give the devs a break from having to fake appendicitis every time they see me coming, and plot out the next quarter's worth of weekly content. If you've been around for a while, you know what Q3 heading into CitizenCon is like. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for letting us share the process of game development with you. We'll see you all here in about a month.
All right, before we get to whatever happens after this, that's actually kind of important that we're going on that hiatus right now. Generally, this happens around the time that we're getting a new update. So we might lose ISC, but a lot of times we'll still be getting a good Star Citizen Live where they talk about the upcoming update. We'll get, you know, the patch watch, Evocati leaks, PTU patches, stuff like that tends to happen during this time, this 3 weeks of no Inside Star Citizen. But because of the way they changed the schedule this year, 319 just came out like a month ago, so I don't think we're going to see 320 for another couple months. This is going to be an interesting period of time. I'm wondering if they're going to try and do anything to keep activity and engagement up, or if they're just on a 3-week hiatus. Let's see what happens.
Port Olisar, first station of the Stanton system. Gone missing in Alpha 320 and replaced without rhyme or reason. Where did it go? What happened
I like the slight glow on him.
to it? Who doesn't want us to know? That's where our team of brilliant researchers and recreationists on the ISC gameplay capture team come in, with a theory not based in science, fact, or anything Todd Pappy would have you believe, but instead what feels right to them in the distorted reason
To them.
and askew minds of Will, Dave, and Alex.
Okay, we deserve this in game. Come on, this is a dynamic event in the making. Let's do it. This dude's just crouching here with no clothes on. Who is that? Which one of you is this? You can't escape the T-pose.
We make no claims to know what really happened, and we certainly didn't ask anyone that could have told us. Instead, we offer one potential reality for you alone to judge. For unresolved miseries, I'm the person talking to you now. Bye.
Thanks for stopping by. I freaking hate those people. Well, I mean, it is the end of Port Olisar. I really hope that we hear about it a little bit later. I think the new station looks pretty nice, though. I mean, it looks like Port Olisar with a giant cargo deck and a security station on board. Don't have much to say about it. It's unfortunate that we're losing Port Olisar in its true glory, but it's really, really nice that we're going to have an actual space station over Crusader. So I'm down with it. Either way, thanks for watching that with me, folks. We'll, I don't know if I'll keep doing reacts, but this was a good one. Can't hate on CIG's passion. Yeah, they know how to dress it up. It was still beautiful, all that, and it was still pretty beautiful. Anyways, I saw a couple folks hop in here. Hello, welcome everybody who came in during the that little show. I saw Polite in here. How you doing today, man? Good to see you. Isadonis, thank you so much for the sub. Orange Joe, thank you as well. 2 years ago, your SC addiction began, and it's my fault. My fault. Happy to oblige. Love to spread the addiction. Although I like to spread the addiction with a caveat. You know, it's like when you're spreading a cocaine addiction, right? You're going to tell them about the good stuff, but you're also going to be like, now remember, if this goes too far, you might end up waking up with an empty wallet and a hanger full of ships. So watch yourself. Although, obviously, it's not ships, it's cocaine. 100%. You just got to be careful. You got to let people know. There are good sides and bad sides, right? PO needs to come back as a place to remember the good times. Ah, the good times. You know what needs to come back to remember the good times? Levski. The great migration from Levski. Wake for 2 hours here. Well, we are getting ready to start here. We're gonna bust on through this. We're gonna hit this up in an hour, folks, because I got places to be, and I'm sure you do too. Y'all are busy people. I know how citizens are. It's Friday and tomats in the morning. It's starting off great. Love a morning tomato. Honestly, you just bite in, and all that tomato juice goes everywhere. Ruined your bed sheets. Messes with your taste buds for the rest of the day. All gotta love a morning tomato. God, what a weirdo. Okay, let me just get this started. A little syncy sync between the time there. So, folks, don't give me you, all right? All right, I was a b-boy too. Before you get into the footwork, you get into the tomatoes. I know how it goes. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. We're going to go over Star Citizen, another deep dive into Star Citizen's development history. That's going to be something I'm doing more with these streams. If you like them, please join us live on the YouTube channel. If you don't, I will always try and get these edited into a more digestible video for you. But we've got a lot of stuff to go over today. We're basically going to start from the first mention of 4.0 that I know of. And from there, we're going to watch a bunch of footage about how things have progressed in expectations, in plans, in what they have said and marketed about 4.0, and where we are now in the lead up to it. So I hope y'all are interested. If you came to this stream, I'm assuming you are. If you clicked on the video, I'm guessing you are. So why don't we jump right into it? Starting off with the first time I remember getting 4.0 getting mentioned. Also, probably the most embarrassing mention of 4.0, let's be honest. Star Citizen CitizenCon 2016. And if you haven't seen it, I actually just published a video on the history of CitizenCon, talking every single year from 2013 all the way up to 2021, how it changed, the blunders, the scandals, the successes, all that stuff. So check that out on the main channel if you haven't. But we're going to start out with this one, 2016, one of the most painful. And let's just kind of hear what their first visions of 4.0 were.
Anyway, and so that's what we're going to have with 3.3. Here we go. And then finally, 4.0.
Now, the worst part of this, sorry, we barely even got started. The worst part of this was that this whole segment of CitizenCon was about the year of 2017. It was expected that we would get 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, and then 4.0 all in a year, being basically one after the other with each quarter. Obviously, 4.0 did not come after 3.3. And even later on, as we're going to see, 3.10 was also kind of expected to be 4.0. That didn't happen as well. Or I think it was 3.11 maybe. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Forget that. I think they talked about 3.10 and why were we getting 3.10 and not 4.0. But there was a lot of miscalculated timelines in the lead up to here. So let's listen to what he has to say about it and what was expected.
Like, something like a Buccaneer or the F8 or something like that. So anyway, and so that's what we're going to have with 3.3. Here we go. And then finally, 4.0. So this is which will be, that'll be the first time we'll go beyond Stanton to other star systems. I'm not going to say how many star systems yet. Depends how much we'll be able to build with our content pipeline, which I'll show you a little bit up and coming here. But we're very focused on, have you seen some of the ATV, how to author star systems at the quality level that we like, with a sense of lore and art and character and history, but be able to do planets, because I mean, sometimes in FPS games people spend forever, years just making a small 2x2 kilometer level, and obviously for us to build the system, the universe that we need to be a bit faster than that. But we will have 4.0 is when you will be able to jump to other star systems. Exploration and discovery will be sort of highlight there for obvious reasons. Science and research, and the RSI Orion and the Crucible will be two of the big ships that we will be doing there. So that's the roadmap for Star Citizen.
Imagine if we were expected to get the Orion and the Crucible in 4.0 at this point. See, I do take the things they say now more seriously because they were able to go through these blunders and kind of get some perspective. But man, this was just wildly off. And I mean, I do think that they thought they would get Pyro done, but it would be like basically what we thought of Stanton at this point, which was nothing for anybody who was around during the 2.0, 3.0 era. Stanton was super basic. I mean, we didn't obviously have all the planets, but the stuff that was there wasn't as interactive and integrated as it is now. So I can get that maybe their concept of what the star system, the next star system being Pyro, was going to be was different. And that is something, that is kind of a vibe that we get as we go through some of these videos. But man, they were off. That was rough. So anyways, that was the first mention of 4.0. Now, obviously, he didn't mention any particular systems here. This was October of 2016. We didn't get any systems mentioned, so there wasn't really this expectation that Pyro was coming with 4.0. But then a year later, at CitizenCon of 2017, we're jumping a full year forward, Chris said this.
And that little the red cluster you see up there is actually the Pyro system. So when we leave Stanton, that will be one of our destinations.
That is literally all I care about from this hour-long video. But I think, I might be wrong here, somebody could correct me, I'm pretty sure that was the first time they really alluded to the fact that Pyro was going to be the next or one of the next systems. I think it was theorized by then, and backers were kind of guessing it, but that was when he came out and said it. And then came this. This is another year later. We're jumping forward. I really heavily loaded the CitizenCon episodes here up in the beginning because, to be honest, we weren't hearing much about 4.0 until around 2019, 2020. So that's when we start to get into these around the verse, inside Star Citizen, and reverse the verse where they're talking about it. But here is something that he was talking about in the road to release to sort of give people an understanding of what would be a minimum viable release for, I guess, kind of a, not really a beta. In fact, why don't we go down here and see if he says, no, it's going to take way too long to go through that. Let's just listen to this. This is talking about persistence and server meshing and kind of where they wanted to take that stuff.
We call it the persistent universe, is that it has a life and a persistence, and people's actions will mean something in it. And that's a very, very important part of the 11th pillar. And the last one, if we go forward, Paul,
is server meshing. So when we get server meshing, that is, we think, the last piece of the puzzle to have the full game experience. And this is our ability to go, right now we have about 50 players on a server. We probably will be able to increase that number because of bind culling and stuff. But it's still going to cap out at a certain level. With server meshing, we'll be able to get to thousands of players playing concurrently in the same locations, star systems. They're not all going to be able to have 1,000 people dogpiling together. They won't be able to render it all at the same time. But you certainly will be able to have 1,000 people on the planet of Hurston, for instance. So the server meshing is the last key piece, because that will allow us to have a truly massively populated universe of players as well as AI, and having servers that dynamically scale up and down to take care of the processing needs of that. And so from our standpoint, in terms of what we would think is the experience when you guys can sit in and play the game day after day and not worry about it getting wiped, not worrying about, oh, I'm going to do something for a day or two and there's no point because they're going to reset the system. When we get to full persistence and server meshing, that's our marker. And sure, after that, we've got planets to do and star systems, and we're going to have continual feature development. But this is an online live game, and so for us, we don't have a particular viewpoint in terms of, oh, that's it, this is where we finish it, and we don't do any more work. It's like literally, we kind of view, as long as you guys want to live in this universe, every 3 months, we're giving you a build, and here you are, and here's a bit more, and here's a bit more, and here's a bit more. And when we get to the full persistence and server meshing, I think at that point, that's when we're not going to be resetting the servers. It's when it will be an ongoing, living, breathing game.
I don't think that's true anymore. Obviously, this game is nowhere near. I mean, they could drop in server meshing, we still won't have quantum, right? So the economy still needs to catch up. Like you said, plenty of features will still need to be there. We won't have base building. We probably won't have farming. Doesn't seem like we're going to have long distance scanning. The reputation system doesn't look like it's going to be very well developed. There are so many things that are going to be missing, even when we get server meshing, that I just don't think it will be what he's talking about here. But I do understand that server meshing is kind of like the big technological hurdle. So you're going to notice this a lot throughout this sort of journey to 4.0, that their idea of what 4.0 represents changes a little bit. And I think there was actually another big change around 2020, which we'll see as we review this stuff as well. Server meshing is pretty much what it says. You're just grouping servers together to allow them to share the load of all of the assets in an area rather than have one server handle it all. So things can transition between those servers, so that instead of one server controlling 300 units, you have 3 servers controlling 100, and they're passing in between based on how much load there is in any one space. Jeremy Rockwell, thank you so much for the 5 on YouTube. You guys are blessing us up on YouTube chat today. Thank you.
And that, I'm not going to give you a date, but...
He does. Literally, we get dates almost every year after this.
But you can watch on our roadmap as we develop it.
4.0 went on the roadmap and then it was taken off. He says this a lot in his CitizenCon videos, and I'm like, dude, don't even acknowledge that you're not going to give a date. Just don't even worry about dates ever again.
Just watch for that, because us internally, those are what we view as our sort of cornerstones that we need to get to. And yes, there's a lot of other things that we've talked about that we're also working on. But when we get that, we feel like it will be a game like no other. So that is kind of what we, in terms of road to release. But speaking of near-term release.
So yeah, I think that was mainly what they were trying to message in 2018. And honestly, I think this is around the time, like this presentation was the first time we really got a realistic idea of the long-term idea, what they wanted to do with Star Citizen. That's not including all the gameplay stuff, but just in terms of like the major beats, You guys saw what we looked at with the 2016 show, which was basically just up to 4.0. That was the next year, right? They were just talking the scale of a year. Whereas with this, clearly the idea is, hey, these things are going to take a little while. Guess back then they thought it would be a couple of years. But I do think that you can see a difference between 2016, 2018, and then eventually whenever we get there, like 2021, the way that they are talking gets a little more realistic every time. It's just one of their biggest faults that things might have changed. Things definitely could have changed. You run into milestones, you run into roadblocks, you run into problems, you have to refactor what you're doing. But I think that they had a real problem with saying things before it was more understood at the time. And when I say they, I mean mainly Chris. That being said, he sold it. And I saw somebody say in the comments recently, like, it is an unfortunate reality that you kind of have to sell the dream before it's ready. And I think they could have done it more responsibly, but I do understand some of where they were coming from with that stuff. Not that I'm excusing it at all. I don't think they should have said a lot of the things they said back then. The crystal ball was wrong. Crystal, I get it. So from there, we got into another talk here with Todd Pappy, who we just saw on Inside Star Citizen. Interesting that they got him on an Inside Star Citizen, I gotta say. And here they talk a little bit more about the challenges of the roadmap and what their plans are going forward. Again, just a little snippet, but there are a lot of little moments like this throughout the last 4 years where you hear a couple things being said, and they have to help you recalibrate how you're thinking about the work that they're going through. Let's listen to this.
We just added a 4.0 to the end of our roadmap with the changes that we made last week. Some folks think the logical patch number increase from 3.9 would be 3.10 as the 10th major patch for software version 3. With 4.0 on the roadmap, should we expect a similarly larger leap in gameplay experience like the one we saw with 2.0 or with 3.0?
I would like to think so. I mean, I think obviously if we get server-side OCS, most of Stanton would be there, if not all. So having a full system there, like that to me is a huge, that to me is like a vertical slice.
Yeah.
This is a galaxy or a solar system for us, and so obviously we got more to create, but then that would be, hey, here's our stake in the ground. Here we have all the celestial bodies, in this. I think that would be huge and would warrant a number change.
Absolutely.
Wait, what else is there?
And for folks who look at the current listing on 4.0 and don't see a whole lot there, I'm just going to say keep your eyes and ears peeled. We've got a bit of time between now and then, and just wait for it.
So that was super key. First, we realized that 3.10 was supposed to be 4.0 at one point, but also that they weren't even talking about a new star system with 4.0. Pyro was not part of 4.0 at this point. He's saying, hey, we're going to have Stanton complete, all the planets, vertical slice of what Star Citizen is meant to be with all the different gameplay mechanics going on, and that's our 4.0 jump. And honestly, that would have been pretty cool. Pyro is a lot of work, and I don't think they needed Pyro for 4.0. I think they included Pyro in 4.0 because server meshing took so long. It does seem like server meshing was ultimately the goal for 4.0, and Pyro was just kind of something they threw on top of that goal. But here, they're very clearly saying, we just want to have a good representation of the game for 4.0, and that would be whatever comes out when it does, which 3.10 was not in the cards. So that's 2019. September of 2019. We still really hadn't gotten that much information on what Pyro was meant to be or anything like that. And then we got, wait a second. Oh man, I missed a video here. Let me go back in their archive. Who was around in that time? You guys remember that? So we go to CitizenCon 2019. Where is that? Here we go. The adventure begins. Building a dynamic universe. Come on, give me something. Let me just go to their playlists. Okay.
Close one on the.
Here we go.
On the interaction. Good job.
Good job, guys. Good job, Mike.
So this would be, where were we there? Okay, so this would be a month after the video we just watched where they were talking about 3.10, 4.0, and how the Stanton vertical slice would kind of be what they wanted 4.0 to be.
All right. Sorry. Hang on a sec. I think it's, I get another, there should be a slide that we go to. Not a ship, a slide, come on. What's the slide? There you go. Anyway, so in this coming year, we were sort of showing you what we're going to do, so.
Didn't we just watch a video where he was like, no dates? And then he comes outside of this coming year.
We are going to have the Pyro system next year. Obviously, that brings in jump points. We're going to have dynamic weather. We're going to be, Microtech, you're going to get the planet itself in 3.8, but we'll be opening up new Babbage in 3.9. We've got moons of Microtech that come in, I think, in 3.9 too. And we'll be continuing on the development of socks and the iCache and the persistence.
See, this... It doesn't, I don't know, guys. This was a month before.
Server-side OCS, most of Stanton would be there, if not all. So having a full system there, like that to me is a huge, that to me is like a vertical slice.
Yeah.
This is a galaxy or a solar system for us, and so obviously we got more to create, but then that would be, hey, here's our stake in the ground. Here we have all the celestial bodies, in this. I think that would be huge. And
so I get that maybe they were being very quiet about Pyro and Todd wasn't allowed to talk about Pyro here. It's just jarring that 1 month later, 2 months later, this is Pyro, and this is what's coming with 4.0. Because I think they actually say that here too. Let me see.
Okay, so we are now in the Pyro system, and we streamed out Stanton as we were traveling and streamed in Pyro. The other side, by the way, has got an awesome fly on the side, yeah.
You guys remember how disappointed people were when they saw the Carrack in this demo compared to what we were thinking it was going to be? Let me see if it's further back, actually. I know they talk about it.
The jump ring, which is delineated. So
you need to do.
I know we hear something about wind pyro.
Volumetric
Who did that? Dante getting the sax playing for us. Ooh, it's a careless whisper. Thank you so much. Appreciate your support. Thanks for passing those subs out to the folks over on Twitch. Appreciate you, dude.
Data, we've now told where we got to go. We got to go to Ruin Station in. There we go. So here we go. Go exterior, Glenn. Exterior. There you go. Show it off. There you go. And this is in the volumetric cloud, the space cloud tech that we have. Same stuff that we're using for Squadron 42 for the coil, but as you can see, usable everywhere else. It's completely volumetric lit in, and it's beautiful.
At least we got the clouds. Fun fact: the guy who kind of worked on these clouds at CIG, who got them working in the game and did a lot of work for them, went off and did his own thing for a little while in the industry, came back and is now working on ray tracing and global illumination. So hats off to that guy. Thank you for all the beauty.
The jump point to the Pyro system. Now, you don't necessarily need infrastructure for jump points, but the more traveled ones are the ones that used to be traveled, which Pyro used to.
I don't think he actually mentions anything about when Pyro is coming, but we go forward, the demo ends, and we get back to this point.
There you go. Anyway, so in this coming year, we were sort of showing you what we're going to do. So we are going to have the Pyro system next year. Obviously, that brings in jump points. We're going to have dynamic weather. You were going to be, Microtech, you're going to get the planet itself in 3.8, but we'll be opening up new Babbage in 3.9. We've got moons of Microtech that come in, I think, in 3.9 too. And we'll be continuing on the development of socks and the iCache and the persistence, and it's pretty damn exciting. It's kind of coming together.
iCache.
And at the detail that I didn't think anyone thought would be possible. So
iCache might have set us back, yeah. Yeah, I think that was a big hiccup for them. We don't have dynamic weather yet. So for those who don't know, iCache is actually what the entity graph ended up being. So PES depends on the entity graph. Think of the entity graph as basically just a giant graph of everything being stored. iCache was the predecessor to that, and they thought it would be how they would reach persistence in this game. It was something they worked on pretty hard for, I think, most of 2019 and 2020. Ended up not working. What the... 10 subs, yo. Anonymous, too. What a stand-up person. That actually just pushed us into giveaway territory over on Twitch. So if you are on Twitch, get active in the chat. And we will be getting you guys a new giveaway with our special Fez giveaways. Thank you so much, though, for that support. So yeah, I think... what was I... Oh, yeah. iCache was probably a decent setback for them, technologically speaking, because I do know that by this time, 2019, they were hiring people for server meshing. They were actively working on their concept of server meshing. It just, these things kind of domino effect and snowball, and it seems like they really got thrown off their game. Probably partially because of iCache, partially because they weren't actually near as ready as we were kind of being told at this point, and partially because of the pandemic. But let's see if they were saying anything else about this.
So I'd like to give a big shout out to everyone.
Nope, just saying thanks. Yeah, we gotta. So what we do here is we've got a bunch of little pieces of paper here, lovingly written by the Mrs. T in chat. And at the end of a certain amount of time, probably in the next couple of minutes, I will be pulling out one of these pieces of paper, and Mrs. Tomato will be picking a lovely winner from Twitch chat to get something from the store, from the CIG store. Whether it be a paint skin, a piece of armor, a new weapon, whatever it is. If you guys want to win something, be active in the Twitch chat. And of course, YouTube, I'm not forgetting you. We've got a little while to go on the YouTube goal. But Twitch, get active, baby. Do we get the paper too? We could work something out. We got to figure out customs, and VAT and all that stuff. But yeah, I'm sure we can do it. Okay, so that was the 2019 CitizenCon. Shortly after that, we followed up with some talk about jump points. We won't listen to this whole thing, but we're going to listen to what they had to say about jump points at that time, how they were talking about them.
Like wormholes and jump points. Some previs was done, I think, back in 2014, 2015. A lot of early concepts went out to Chris. I was working with Marcel on the concept side of things. So we've done a lot of loose investigations first to understand, do we want something big, do we want something that's small, does it fit into the lore of SC? There's several things that you can play with, such as, is it spherical, is it cylindrical, is it square? The very kind of like core.
To be a part
shape.
of the giveaway, you just have to be active in chat. No commands, no anything. You could literally just type in Opalaka Pinolopapop and we'll get you. The sraffle command is saved for the bot. That won't do anything if anybody else does it. Although sraffle does mean you can hit !join to get some points on the channel. That'll be for future giveaways.
Shapes that you can kind of play with, and then how that thing would operate, how you'd enter it, what's it look like to the third person as well as the first person.
I'm digging all the attempts at spelling that.
And then several iterations for weeks, right? And then we kind of like settled on what you kind of saw in the demo.
So kind of like it's a really good opportunity for me to now show you some of the content live in the editor, maybe run through some of the processes that we went through to build this content, and just speak a little bit about our processes. This is the Stanton location, but it isn't just confined to one area as well. Like the cool thing is that, I don't know if you noticed from the demo, but we arrived at the edge of a nebula. This is all contained in the same scene, so I can zoom out of this location now. And you can see again, this is fully volumetric, so the approach for this is using the gas cloud tech that's been developed. I mean, it's been developed specifically for the coil, but the more that we've developed with it, the more that we've realized that we can actually start to build entire space scenes with this. And for the persistent universe, obviously, it's less of a linear experience than it is for Squadron 42, because with Squadron 42 we know the exact location that will bring players into these spacescapes, and we'll know how we're going to direct the player into them. When we're building content for the persistent universe, it needs to be a little bit more 360 than that. It needs to be a bit more flexible. So you can see from this gas cloud that we've got here, we can pretty much move it to any position, and we'll still be able to get like a kind of a good feeling from it and a cool vibe. The cool thing is, and something that we've done a lot in Squadron 42 as well, is been able to actually construct these areas with polygons, with the design team, to get exactly what we want represented in the engine. Just to show you a little bit behind the process to building spacescapes like this with this volumetric tech, we do use a little bit of Houdini to kind of generate this content. And I can show you, this is obviously this is a combination of various different elements. We've had a lot of internal tools developed by the VFX tech team, who have built what we call CIG cloud tools. They build the CIG cloud tools to be able to basically turn geometry into gas cloud. So with this kind of like shape that you see here, this has all been built out of geometry, out of my own preference. I've built this in 3ds Max, but really...
That's enough of that. So you can see that what starts to happen here is we start to hear more about the development of the Pyro system. Obviously, this is the Stanton jump point, but like we have started to hear, we heard about server meshing being a plan. Now we're starting to hear about Pyro, but they're not necessarily drawing the connection between the two yet. I think it's not until 2 years after this that they finally explicitly say Pyro and 4.0 are intertwined. So this is 2019, end of 2019. Can I show Delamar? Like the area? Yeah, I could just like pull up a...
Epidemic sound.
Ah, that's an ad. I could pull up a quick Ferrister video for you. Yeah, Delamar exists though. I mean, it's they took it out of the game, but you can find like videos of it. This is an old landing zone that got taken out because it's going to be moved to a different star system. It's a lot of fun. People loved it. It's like a asteroid, but it's an asteroid that's big enough to look like a moon. I don't think he has any shots of that. But yeah, Delamar was there. Okay, so right after that, like basically, oh, I'm sorry. This was what I was, okay. I had myself completely backwards. Now we're jumping into 2020. What we need from the tomato site is official GII pheasants. I don't know, that might sound the wrong idea. Let me, before we actually start out though, let me pull our prize for today for our lovely winner over on Twitch, getting themselves a... Yo, are you serious? Oh man. going off today. Somebody just got themselves a Uberev Deadeye pistol. That is the cool little electrifying pistol that will probably end up having a stun mode at some point in the future. In fact, let me pull it up for you real quick. Thank you so much for those subs, Gooser. Appreciate you. Hope you're enjoying the stream right now. This is what you just won. Whoever is going to win this giveaway. It's a nice little pistol. It's cool. It's got a little wooden handle on it. You know how it is. Who doesn't like wood on their handle? So Mrs. Tomato will be pulling that giveaway winner through the bot here shortly. Still giggle every time you hear that. I love it. I love that saxophone. Makes my heart jump. Jamo Games and Stockies, thank you so much for the subs, by the way. Hope you guys are enjoying. But back to where we were. So jumping into 2020, this is a new year now. 319 finished up with that sort of explanation of jump points and the CitizenCon demo where they said that Pyro is coming the next year. Now let's hear what they have to say about Pyro starting in 2020. Oh, we got a winner. No reservations. Congrats, you won yourself a pistol. Thank you for being active in the chat, folks. Billiam McGates, thank you as well for the sub. Please get in touch with Mrs. Tomato or she'll send you a message and we'll make sure to get you your new pistol. Chicken dinner, exactly. All right.
We can do within our first quarter of this year. As we showed at CitizenCon end of last year, we showed that first sneak peek to what Pyro could be. So as myself and as a team, we're all quite excited about starting that process.
Okay. Let's play that again.
Myself and as a team, we're all quite excited about starting that process.
So they're really getting started on the process of building Pyro at this point. This is January of 2020. One could say that their planet tech at that point was good enough to build 4 planets in a year, but there wouldn't have been points of interest. There wouldn't have been factions. There wouldn't have been outpost systems. A lot of stuff would have been missing from a Pyro that they put in at any point in 2020. So it is interesting. It almost feels like the jump from what Todd Pappy is saying here about them wanting the complete Stanton to what he's saying here makes more sense than what we heard in that CitizenCon, because I could see them saying mid-2019, yeah, we want to finish off Stanton, and then in early 2020 being like, well, we're starting Pyro because we really want that to be in 4.0. And it starts to kind of shift around this point.
But before then, we want to close out these last 3 moons in Stanton. So that time is a factor because I'm getting pushed by my boss, Chris, to start on this new system.
I think the big...
And that's pretty key. There is a bit of a disconnect in the timeline there. And then we got posts like this. So this was, this was around that time. This was right after some pretty big delays on the roadmap. For those who weren't around during 2019, 2020, some of this was because of work from home changes and because the pandemic really messed up their workflow. But a lot of this was, I think, just a major refactor in what they were planning on doing. I think at some point they were like, hey, server meshing is going to take a really long time. We need to take a step back and build all these systems to be much better by the time server meshing is ready. But I don't know. There's a lot to discuss here. There's a lot to talk about in the way this all happened. I'm here to just try and lay it out for you guys. We're missing a couple of points here. We're missing various videos. It's really hard to find these videos, by the way. Finding CIG videos talking about 4.0 is actually pretty hard. My normal resources couldn't really pull them up, so a lot of this was just me going through videos and trying to find mentions. And I think a lot of stuff was happening around this time when the pandemic started. A lot of realizations. This is around when iCache wasn't working for them, which is probably when they realized that server meshing is going to take a step back. Ultimately, what happened here is what led to these last 3 years, I think, of just not being super clear. And I'll say this right now, they're still not being incredibly clear about it. I think that server meshing is closer than it's ever been. And we obviously have signs of the technology getting there now with persistent entity streaming in the game and functioning, but it is still kind of a black box, server meshing, for this game in particular. I know server meshing exists in other places. But yeah, this was a post that somebody had made on Reddit, just kind of showing all of the things that might have been planned for 3.9, which was the patch before 4.0, and all of the things that were then removed from there. And you can see that some of this stuff did get added into the game at some point, but not, you know, Mission Giver Eddie Parr never got completed. I think most of us know because mission givers don't really work in the game anyways. So at this point they realized, hey, server meshing is not going to be ready to support more mission givers. Let's just delay that. And I think there was one other really big delay here. Like actor status networking refresh or something like that. I can't really remember exactly what it was. But yeah, this ultimately was a pretty big delay. The 3.9 stuff and the 3.10 stuff, it rolled over on itself. I think that's when iCache started to show signs of not scaling. Yeah. I think mission givers will start to come back once server meshing is stabilized. That seems like it's the biggest reason that they wouldn't have them. They just don't function well, you know? Okay, so after that, we jump forward a few months to June of 2020. And really at this point, they're starting to finally show us Pyro. They revealed it at the CitizenCon the year prior. The cat was out of the bag, probably earlier than it should have been. But at this point, the devs were starting to work on the specifics in Pyro. So here is one of the first updates we started to see in Inside Star Citizen as they kind of started to build that hype. And they weren't really calling this the road to 4.0 because, again, Pyro and 4.0 weren't being associated at this time. But you could tell that they were starting to build hype for Pyro.
Speaking of pyromaniacs and what might be the best or worst segue I've made all season, it's time for another look at early work on the planets of the Pyro system, in this case, Pyro 2. Now, in the original galactic guide for the Pyro system, Pyro 2 was said to be a coreless planet that once held significant mineral deposits and became the victim of a metal rush that quickly picked the planet clean, leaving it little more than an empty husk. And, well, we may have to revisit that assessment before all is said and done. Similar to our look at Pyro 1 last month, this is early work on the planet's surface alone, so you can expect plenty of changes and improvements along the way before it gets plopped into the Pyro system.
Chris should not have said that Pyro would be in 2020. Just every time we get another update on how it was, it just doesn't make sense, man. And it starts to explain why he wasn't at CitizenCon 2022. And who knows how much he'll be making those kinds of statements this year, CitizenCon.
System with its family of other planets. But it's fun to showcase what Planetech V4 can cook up in a new world's very early days.
So that was kind of just to show where the development was at that time in Pyro. Now, at the end of 2020, we're jumping forward quite a bit here. The coverage was still very light. 2020 as a whole, we didn't see a CitizenCon, which is generally where they talk about the major patch like 4.0 and Pyro. So we didn't have that chance for the messaging on Pyro. They were able to kind of easily just skim over the fact that it wasn't there in 2020. Instead, for those of you who were there and remember all the drama, they were kind of building up this idea of, hey, we're going to give you more updates on Squadron 42. We're going to start to give you some more insight into the game, and we're going to show you what we would like to call the briefing room. So we got an episode of the briefing room. This was really the big thing that replaced CitizenCon for that whole year. It was an hour-long video that we actually watched a couple of weeks ago, last week, when we were looking at the Squadron 42 development. It's an hour-long video of them basically just looking at a location from Squadron 42 and talking about the development process of it, which we love development here. That's why we're here, right? But ultimately, this was not a replacement for CitizenCon, and they only did one episode. keep that in mind, because I'm gonna come back to that later on in this video. But they only did one episode of this. We didn't really get much to go off of, so clearly no mentions of 4.0, no talk of Pyro. It just wasn't there. And then we got a letter from the chairman at the end of the video, or at the end of the year, December 23rd, 2020. And in this, we talked a lot about, 2020 was tough. COVID-19 caused some problems. They did a lot of stuff to try and update to work from home. But ultimately, this video talked a lot about the year in review, what happened, what the priorities were, the new roadmap that they were getting ready to introduce. The progress tracker wasn't even a thing yet. So they were getting that in. And a lot of talk about Squadron 42. A lot. At this point, I think they were starting to realize that Squadron 42 is an awkward topic. And they needed to double down on it. That's why after this, I think it was 6 months after this, 8 months after this, Chris and Sandy announced that they were moving to Manchester. They were actually moving from California to Manchester to kind of get things a little more going on Squadron 42. But throughout this whole letter, all of this letter of the chairman, at the end of 2020, after Pyro had been delayed, 4.0 was not mentioned, nothing had been talked about really besides these inside Star Citizen updates on development. Not a single mention of Pyro besides the Grey Cat multi-tool, and not a single mention of 4.0. I don't really remember what I was even doing around this point, but I think this would have been a solid time to start to talk about, hey, they didn't talk about 4.0 or Pyro. I think we were very distracted with Squadron 42 at that point, and maybe that was a coincidence. Maybe that was meant to be. I don't know. But at this point, we were getting very little on the long-term goal of Star Citizen and the long-term plan for 4.0 and Pyro. Made people a little bit uneasy, but we continued. And into 2021, we started to hear more talk about the things that would be needed for Pyro. So many of you know that Pyro is a massive system compared to Stanton. This is going to be a huge expansion into the space that we're playing in. You can't fly as many places. You can't be as comfortable traveling around the system. So they were starting to talk about systems that would support that gameplay. Remember, this is April of 2021. And this was one of the first signs that Pyro was not going to be something on its own. It was going to be linked to server meshing, because we'll play this and then I'll talk about it.
But it is still early. Now I want to clear that statement up. It is still early. We have been talking about refuel and repair in many of these systems throughout Star Citizen development for several years now. When we say it's early days in Spain, that means active development on this feature is now begun.
The scheduling is done for it. We are just ironing out the details in the design. We already talked with a lot of the dependency teams, all the guys that need to provide the art, change the boom arm for refueling.
Talking about refueling, by the way.
How do we do the fuel ports? There's already people. There's gears are in motion for this. This pretty much needs to come with Pyro, because if it doesn't, then a lot of people are going to get stranded in Pyro, and there's going to be no solution for that. There's gears are in motion for this. This pretty much needs to come with Pyro, because if it doesn't, then a lot of people are going to get stranded in Pyro, and there's going to be no solution for that.
So the developers who were working on these features, refueling, repair, they were talking with the idea of we got to get this done because it needs to be ready for Pyro. They didn't have, at least not outwardly towards us, they were not messaging to us that Pyro was a long way away. In their mind, refueling had to get finished in order to get into Pyro. Now, we have refueling. My boy Sigelian, he likes to get into doing some refueling gameplay. And it's actually, if you guys have started doing the mining stuff that they did with 319, with the cargo refactor, you don't have to return to the station. Refueling actually has some use for org gameplay. That being said, I think they could still use some beacons. But regardless, the way that he's talking about refueling is, hey, this needs to be done for Pyro, or else people are going to be in trouble. So we're getting this done. And I might be reading too much into it, but it does to me sound like he wants Pyro to be in, or expects Pyro to be in sooner than 3 years down the line. So I just find that interesting, the way that they were talking about the Pyro system, because at this point they still hadn't quite tied it to server meshing. I don't think there was anything more on here I wanted to listen to.
So yeah, it needs to get there.
Well, that answers my one question without me having to ask it. So thank you.
Yeah, so that was just a one question. He said they need refueling by Pyro. We got refueling more than a year ago. So that wasn't even a worry for them. I mean, they need to polish it up a little bit and make it easier to do, but those timelines didn't really match up in the way that it did sound like he was thinking they might. At this point, they're still trying to get iCache to work. I think actually at this point, let me double check. Because when was this video? Oh yeah, so this would have been after. Yeah, this was July 1st, 2021. And this was April 2nd, 2021. So that's a 2-month difference. But at this point, they already knew that PES wasn't working at this point. I think he says it.
System that will be just much more physical and practical.
See if I can find it.
Up in Montreal as well with Turbo. I mean, we've talked about it before. It's sort of the bit of tech that will allow us to sort of open up, number of players, but also just sort of help a lot with, sort of our performance issues that we have. Because when we, you play right now in the game, you play in the live build and you're running around Stanton. If everybody's in, typically what happens is people in, Area 18, people at space stations and different entities. More and more through 14, and so if someone goes there now, all of a sudden simulate. So the key with server meshing is this is allowing multiple servers to handle different areas inside a star system, even one area, like players to seamlessly sprint servers. So the authority passes from one server to another instance. It's also incredibly critical for
this is jumpy.
Transitioning to new from the server that was handling. So we've already got a lot of the core features of server meshing because we've been working on for quite a long time. So the authority transfer, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's already been built, and we're building out the back end database, what we call the entity graph, that is going to sort of persist and remember the state of every single entity and object in the world. So if you stream out an area, you completely remember the state where everything is, whether you dropped a Coke can in the middle of a forest on a planet, and that aspect of it, opens up obviously the persistence we talked about, which is great, but is also a fundamental building block for the server meshing. So we've been really working hard on that. We've we're making really good progress to it. I'm not going to promise any dates because it's by far the most technically challenging thing. I will say probably by the end of this year we should hopefully have the
Bruh, he just said no dates. How does he do that?
I'm not going to promise any dates because probably by the end of this year the most technically challenging thing. I will say probably by the end of this year the most good progress to it. I'm not going to promise any dates because it's the end of this year we should.
It's like 3 seconds. Chris. Hey, Reese, thank you so much for the memberships on YouTube, man. I appreciate the support. Chris, dude. Oh, man.
Hopefully have the proper persistence in there that we talked about, the proper global persistence, which is this sort of streaming entity graph thing that I've just discussed, which is, the new version of what was being called the iCache before, if people are getting confused about that.
Yeah, so that at this point they knew that the iCache was being replaced. I do think that they had made that switch around 2020-ish, and that was part of that delay like we were talking about. But clearly part of the setback, yeah. Oh man, it's so funny. It's like that what's that meme with the kid sitting there with like the vein popping out of his head, and I could just see at the bottom like trying not to say any dates.
During things like
all right, this is another update that we were getting around that time. What is this? So this is April 2021, around the same exact time as what he's saying here, and they're just talking about some of the detailed work they're doing on Pyro.
Sandstorms and other incompatibles are being there. Moving on to the environment teams,
More harvestables are being concepted in development for the upcoming Pyro system, including these devil pods of Pyro 4. Referred to as the animate tree, this is a dried and expansive stalk that grows pods that can be harvested by citizens for the manufacture of heat-resistant textiles. Of the 8 options seen here, we're thinking 5 and 6 are the ones that will likely move forward. There's also Jara's Veil, a wind anemone of Pyro 3 of frilly, brightly colored plants designed to grow on the edge of cliffs instead of feeding on soil. Their flower-like growths can be collected and used for medical study. Current thinking is that options 1 and 2 will be moving forward here.
So,
speaking of the
there's more.
Pyro system, it wouldn't be a sprint report without a look at the continuing progress of our colonialism outposts being worked on for Pyro and other frontier systems. Now this week, the props team has begun whiteboxing out some of the various accoutrements that may one day fill the interior spaces. Things like beds, rugs that will eventually get some nice physicalized deformation so they really tie the rooms together, all manner of lamps, drapes that can hang in front of windows and diffuse the runtime lighting in new and exciting ways, and some righteous pottery to unchain the melodies of our hearts.
Doesn't this look like I think I just said this in our last time doing this, but this looks like toilet paper to me.
That's a joke for the 90s people who will understand that reference.
So we're getting updates on the stuff that's being built, and you still get this idea that like Pyro's being built actively right now. It's not even close to being finished. But whatever they would have dropped in before, if they had gotten Pyro in, wouldn't have had any of this stuff in. They wouldn't have the props. They wouldn't have had the foliage. They wouldn't have had the harvestables or the outposts. And this is a really interesting one. They wouldn't have had music.
Now, more process questions here.
By the way, this is the composer of Star Citizen. Great man, does wonderful work. Thank you so much, Pedro. We love your work.
How far ahead do you work? You just mentioned Pyro. Are you composing stuff for Pyro right now, or does that come later? Like, where in the overall process do you...
This, by the way, this is June 4th of 2021. So around that same time, but again, obviously well after the old Pyro in 2020, wherever that is. Too many tabs.
Traditionally, in video games, audio is very downstream. And I'm talking about all audio, not just the music, the sound effects, because they're waiting for art to finish their stuff and environment to finish their stuff, because they want to see all the pieces, and then audio is that thing, that fabric, that thread that ties all those pieces together. So it de facto ends up being very downstream. Is that the same with the music?
Yeah, it's mostly the same with the music. When I get to make the music, it's pretty much, well, sometimes less, sometimes more, but no, usually it's pretty much already 80-90% done, basically. So yeah, so I'm not still working on.
So that's how we know when Pyro is almost done. We just need to spam Pedro. Just keep asking, you working on music yet, buddy?
On Pyro, at least I'm not. Well, I've thought about it. Well, I did work a little bit
it's
when
percolating.
We did that. Yeah, it's percolating. I did work on it on the CitizenCon demo, quite a bit, and that's so. But apart from that, we've been focused on other locations, on our moons, etc. So I think it would be cool. That it's very cool and very unique that each moon will have, at least I've been scoring a lot of moons, that it will have their own score, and which I think it's well, they was done with a lot of heart, each of them. So I think the visit to each moon is not just because of the sake of seeing the graphics. Hopefully, it's also because you want to hear what the music score is there. I hope at least.
Sorry about the videos being quiet. I can't do anything. My own volume is maxed out, and YouTube's volume is maxed out. They upload their videos pretty quiet. But the music wasn't being started at that point. Maybe he could have rushed something out. But again, the signs are saying that Pyro is still a ways out at this point. And I don't even think they had started their technical road to 4.0 or Pyro. Because again, they hadn't officially said yet that Pyro and 4.0 were coupled. Somebody asked earlier, what is the technological holdup for 4.0 or moving on from 3.x PR noise? And it was server meshing. But as you heard with Todd Pappy saying all the way back here somewhere, where the heck was that? He was expecting it to basically be a full Stanton system. Hopefully, I'm guessing with server meshing working in line with it. And then this was the check-in. I don't even know why this is on here. Let's listen.
That will be just much more physical and practical and ties into the object and item persistence that I've been talking about. So for the traders out there, it will be a lot better. And I swear to God, the AI guys are working on some really good, cool stuff. And I'm going to determine to make sure that in the game live server you actually see it, because really there's a lot of problems that come because of the low server tick rate. It's really quite frustrating, because in reviews I see fun behaviors, a lot more behaviors than there are actually in the PU right now, and it's a lot smarter. But you get into the live game like I did with my 9-year-old daughter last night, and there's just a lot of people standing on tables doing nothing. And
you got ramed last night.
Yeah,
see, this was a thing. This has been a thing for such a long time.
It's just a lot of people standing on tables doing nothing, and
you got
it is forever.
Yeah, I got told off. I was told I should be embarrassed to have all my AI standing on tables. But yeah, no, because I mean the AI is actually very powerful, and there's a lot of really.
Okay, I think that might have been a mistake. I put that in there. Jumping into CitizenCon of that year, this is where they started to draw the line between Pyro and 4.0, and I think you'll hear it officially for the first time in this video. So this is how they opened Star Citizen or CitizenCon of 2021. This is when they really started to kick it into gear. And, like we've been saying, I do think that things got a little bit weird around 2019, 2020. And also, as somebody pointed out, they started to shift a lot more towards Squadron 42 because they just realized it was taking way too long. And that's going to be a much easier way for them to get a little cash influx than continuing with Star Citizen. Although I like Star Citizen more. But anyways, this is how we opened up. Tis pretty. Yay, Pyro, yay. So that was, this was when it really started. It's when they started trying to hype up the system a lot more.
Hi, I'm Todd Pappy, Star Citizen.
But again, at this point, they still hadn't said that server meshing was needed for Pyro.
And live game director.
Hi, I'm Ian. I'm the art director for Star Citizen.
Hi, I'm Dave. I'm the narrative director at Star Citizen.
So finally, we're saying goodbye to Stanton. It's quite quite precious to us. We've been talking about it, we've been looking at it, we've been living there for quite a long time. Now it's time to, you know, move the conversation on, start to look at something.
The craziest part to me is that this game is developing so much and this took so long that the assets they used in the trailer for Pyro are now outdated. Because, like, Lorville doesn't look like that anymore. So when Pyro comes out, this video is going to look a little bit stranger. It's not a big deal, but it's just one of those little things.
Now it's changed slightly, the jump point side, from what we saw a little while ago. One of the things that was quite important for Chris is he wanted that feeling of something that was quite wondrous, something that was quite amazing. You know, it's not dark, it's not mysterious, it's not hostile, but it's more, like I said, wondrous.
So when we started looking at Pyro, and we had to start looking at how the jump points work when we're traveling from Stanton to Pyro or Pyro to Stanton, and thinking about border security, the infrastructure that's needed there. What's the lore? Just because on one side it's very lawless versus the other side is dealing with the UEE. So we needed to go through and really think about how this was working, and then also with the jump points, how smugglers would work with the secondary and tertiary routes that would lead into the main jump point and then funnel out.
Yeah, we kind of call it, internally we kind of call it the Swiss cheese approach of the, you know, there's sort of the main entrance that you would go through on Stanton, which would be the sort of guarded, have the infrastructure that you had mentioned, the security and stuff like that, but the possibility that there would be alternate ways to kind of get in to bypass.
All right, they're talking design here. We're going to jump to the end here where we finally do hear the official statement from somebody's mouth that Pyro is building coupled with 4.0.
The team has put in a lot of hard work in building the Pyro system, building the AI, building the planets, the worlds that you'll go and explore. So Pyro will be ready when server meshing is, and it will be coming out with Star Citizen Alpha 4.0. So on behalf of myself, I want to thank Dave and Ian and yourselves for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the panel, and I hope you enjoy the rest of Digital CitizenCon. See you in the verse.
So that was it. That was and this was the Star Citizen. This is a CitizenCon where Chris was not anywhere to be seen. But yeah, that was the point at which they were like, okay, 4.0, Pyro are both dependent on server meshing. And that was when it started to be like, okay, well, how do we, when is server meshing ready? And thus began the actual wait for 4.0, because server meshing is a kind of a pie in the sky. It's something that already exists. Other games have done it. I think Dual Citizen's doing it right now. That one game, Scavs, is on Spatial OS, is doing something like it. And other games do certain things like it. But for this game, it has been a struggle for them to get it working, in large part because of the way that they track all the objects through persistent entity streaming. Having every single object in the game be an entity that needs to be actionable, storable, stealable, movable, and then also have those entities be able to transition between servers and save their state between servers and all that kind of stuff has proved to be quite a bit of a challenge for them. But they're still working on it, as we'll see.
Concept to reality throughout this.
This is just another update on what they were doing with Pyro at the time.
Now, it's been a while since we checked in on the universe's gas cloud tech, and the environment teams recently completed a sprint exploring some Lagrange point looks for the various planets of the upcoming Pyro system. Each star system, planetary area, and planet itself is designed with a specific color palette in mind at the earliest parts of the process. And some of the coloring you see here may and will change as the lighting passes begin. Additionally, the wrecks you see here are all currently placeholder, as the call has gone out to create more dynamic and in some cases more recognizable debris for the players to explore. Yeah, we're on the road to Pyro this year, and you can expect to see lots more as 2022 progresses.
Oh, did we already jump to 2022? Look at that. So yeah, end of 2021, they started to talk about Pyro being a thing. 2022, they got on the road to 4.0. Such a waste of time and resources to want every tiny piece of trash to be persistent. That's why most games don't do it. And there are a lot of things in Star Citizen that people are going to consider to be just pointless, useless. I think that's part of why this project has survived so long, because they're doing things that nobody else really wants to try and do at this situation. And the people who want to see that both have a lot of patience and a lot of money. Jumping forward a little bit more, we see yet another update on Pyro progress, kind of, again, lending some context to where they are in that development cycle.
Into the persistent universe proper. The team is also exploring early advanced traversal opportunities for some of the outlaw space stations currently being built for the Pyro system. If you remember the most recent CitizenCon demo, advanced traversal are ways to get around or through an environment beyond the critical path most people usually stick to. Now, by following a variety of indicators still being developed, including simple things like tracing the path of an unusual cable or scratch marks on the floor, the players can discover these advanced traversal paths designed to lead not just to interesting tactical opportunities, but special loot and content rewards for those who spend a little extra time exploring. As for everything else you're seeing here, this is still very much a work in progress, with only the earliest of lighting, texture, and prop passes being complete. But it's a neat look at how these stations are pushing not just into new dynamics visually, but a universe of possibility for additional exploration as well. And like with the outposts you saw at CitizenCon, they won't be assembled the same way each and every time, so you can never be too certain what's around any corner.
I do like that with Pyro, we are getting an update to how the game plays. It's not just a copy of Stanton, they're actually building in some good, useful additions to the game. Now, with the road to 4.0, we did get a letter mid-year last year. This was the big one that kind of told us that PES was starting to work and things were getting along their way. But as we can see here in the text somewhere, they do talk about, for PES to work, both the entity graph and replication layer need to be functional. We're still waiting on replication layer to be fully implemented. In terms of engineering, this was the biggest technical challenge and required a fundamental reworking of how the game handles authority and state change of entities. In addition, a whole host of new online services were needed to support the replication layer and entity graph. To support PES, we needed to create 12 new services. For server meshing, only 4 more services are currently planned. So PES was a large part of the work that needed to be done for server meshing. And they did report that 16 months of work, 18 engineers, 3 dedicated QA, and 4 producers got them finally to the point where PES was working in a closed environment. About 8 months later, it finally made it into our hands, and we saw just how difficult it was going to be following up from there. So everything that they said in this letter, which was about kind of the lead up to server meshing in 4.0 and the road to 4.0, got set back a bit. And we can see in this graphic here that I can't even zoom in on it. Right here, it says persistent streaming with 318, and then DGS server node split, which is a big thing, and then server meshing tech preview, and then server meshing MVP in 4.0. So again, the messaging is that 4.0 server meshing intertwined, but we don't know when it's happening. And a lot of this is talking about 4.0, you know, being a new era for Star Citizen, just like 3.0 was. 3.0 was legitimately a big change for the game. And with 4.0, we'll be getting a second system, Pyro, so they were reiterating that. And ultimately, it was just this was the big lead up. And then finally, we got one more letter from the chairman at the end of the year that talked a little bit more about where they wanted to be and where they were at the time. And we were learning kind of that it was a little bit more of a setback than they were expecting. And ultimately, that's around the last update we have. We do have a video on server meshing and what they're doing with it, but it didn't give us too much information. And unfortunately, I don't really have the time to go over it. So that about wraps up my full review of kind of where we went. I did skip quite a bit of stuff, and I didn't go into too much detail with some of it. But I hope this does give people an idea of just how long and confusing the road to this update has been and how big a deal it will be when we finally get it. They've built expectations up a lot, and I do hope that they can meet those expectations. But we won't know. We won't know till it happens. We're seeing a lot of the development that's going on in the meantime, locations and game systems and AI and all this stuff. But will it come together? Nobody really knows. I'm going to continue to be updating you guys on this and covering this throughout the year. So if you're interested in more of it, stay tuned. Maybe come more of these live streams. I'll be getting together more of this information in this same format, and we'll be doing those pretty regularly. I'll also put out a couple videos on this throughout the year, but ultimately that's it for today, folks. Hope you enjoyed. I hope you got to learn something new and get some more perspective on what's going on with the game. I am going to give you all over to my man Space Cutlet today. We're going to raid Space Cutlet. Looks like he's doing some Star Citizen stuff. Big thanks to everybody who came today to the live show. Thank you if you're watching this after the fact. I hope you guys enjoy this kind of content. Love going over the development of this stuff, and I'm glad to see there's so many other people who do too. This can be a frustrating and a fun project to follow. And no matter what, it's always best to decide for yourself whether or not you should take some time away or continue to follow it closer. Either way, I'm just here to try and make that choice easier for you. So thank you everybody for coming. Hope you had a good time. Hope you have a great day. And I'll see you next time. Bye.